Hello everyone, I am James Balash here on Referee James B, the YouTube channel, and I just just went onto my Facebook recently, and I saw that Jeff Hardy is coming back to Impact Wrestling, but not as himself, not as Jeff Hardy. You see, back when Jeff Hardy and back when the Hardy Boys were running Omega Wrestling, their company that they made in North Carolina, and they went throughout the nation. I think I'm not too sure where they went, but the company Omega, um, which stands for organi. No, I'll give me 1 minute. I'll look it up. But their company Omega stands for the following. Stands for. Give me a minute. Omega Wrestling stands for the Organization of Modern Extreme Grappling Arts, and what that means is that it deals with extreme moves, deals with modern grappling, such as the hip toss, many others. I can't name any more than that. I mean, there are way more than just the hip toss in grappling, but I can't name any more right at this moment. But in the end, it's a company that the Hardy Boys made, and what I'm just trying to say is that Jeff Hardy is coming back to Impact Wrestling as his old character that he used to play in Omega, which is basically the only character he's ever played. Because Jeff Hardy is himself. Whenever he's wrestling as Jeff Hardy, he's wrestling as himself. Not many people in wrestling wrestle as themselves. I can name a bunch of guys right now that started out in the early 90s who currently still wrestle as their real life name. And some of them are Randy Orton, uh, John Cena, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Gregory Helmsy, the Hurricane. The Hurricane wrestled as himself at one point in the WWE as Gregory Helms. Um, who else? Let me think. Vince McMahon, whenever he did rarely wrestle, he wrestled as himself because that's him. Bret Hart, uh, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Natalia, um, Bria and Nikki, the Bella Twins, many of them. Trish Stratus is not her real name, but it's a damn close. It's damn close to it. It's just pronounced differently and spelled differently, so it's two different things. Anyways, Willow the Wisp, which is one character that Jeff Hardy played in Omega Professional Wrestling, is making his debut in TNA Impact Wrestling. No, I do not know when, but he is coming to Impact Wrestling. And speaking of Impact Wrestling, this is pretty much the only time I'm talking about TNA. Otherwise, I'm talking about the WWE. And with that said, TNA has its new investor, which is Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP, former WWE superstar. Now, he's also a former wrestler in other companies, yeah, but I only know him from the WWE. I remember going to the 2008 Royal Rumble in Madison Square Garden in New York City, and I remember seeing the first match to happen on live television. It was Ric Flair versus MVP, and at the time, Ric Flair had that stipulation in every one of his single matches that if he loses just one more time, just one match, he slips up and loses, he has to retire from the company. And with that said, I was there for that very night. That very night was magnificent. I loved every moment of the Royal Rumble 2008 event. Um, it was so wonderful. But if I had to pick one favorite match out of the entire Royal Rumble 2008 pay-per-view event, it would have to be Ric Flair versus MVP, and not because I'm saying that because MVP is the new investor. Oh my God, no! I'm saying that because it actually did. It kind of inspired me that even a 60, maybe 70-year-old at the time, could still wrestle in a wrestling company, and could still go to this very day and wrestle a full-length match. And that, to me, meant the world to me. Second favorite match would have to be Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24, because that just pushed me. That if I ever learned to wrestle in a professional wrestling school, and I decide, even if I don't get hired by WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor or any of them, and I just work the independents my whole life, which, yeah, it's boring. You get paid, but not a lot of money. But I mean, well, depending on the company, you don't get paid a lot of money. But I mean, still, if I could learn to wrestle and then prove to myself that in like 15 years' time that I'm still wrestling despite the the average age that most professional wrestlers start to retire, I'll be like, damn. But that's just me. Um, and yeah. Anyways, Willow the Wisp. I don't know a lot about Willow the Wisp, other than Jeff Hardy played him, and the first, the last time Willow the Wisp made an appearance at Omega, which was like probably like 10, 12 years ago, maybe 13. I'm not too sure how long ago. May not have been that long ago. I don't know. But the last time Willow the Wisp made his appearance at Omega Wrestling, uh, was the night Jeff Hardy um, retired, not retired, but retired the character Willow the Wisp for some time now. And as you know, in professional wrestling, sometimes a retirement match isn't necessarily an actual retirement. It means that they're just powering as they're just going away for some time and then they're coming back years later or something, or months later, or a few weeks later or something. And you never actually get the true definition of retirement out of professional wrestling anymore. I mean, in WWE, a retirement match is you lose and you don't show up for a few months or you don't show up for a few years because they want you to have that big impact, that big crowd reaction return when you make a return. Whether it's negative or positive, they want you to have that big return, crowd pop. And that's what they're trying to pull in professional wrestling now whenever they do a retirement match. And with that said, I want to say one thing about Impact Wrestling. And I think it was last night's episode, I'm not too sure. Or if it's next week's, I'm not too sure. But I heard that TNA is now taking a WWE match into their own company. And what that means is that TNA has never, ever done a casket match in their entire length of them being a company. And that means that they're taking a WWE publicized match. Sorry, but they're taking a WWE match and they're turning it into an Impact Wrestling match. Because if you remember WrestleMania 21, it was Undertaker versus Mark Henry in a casket match. And Undertaker ended up winning, of course. But what next do you think TNA will take from WWE? Do you think they're going to do a Buried Alive match? Probably not, because even TNA is somewhat on the borderline of family entertainment. So, probably not going as that far, but what do you think you see next coming out of TNA? Like, because they're already taking a WWE match, like I just said, a casket match, and putting it between Mr. Anderson and Bully Ray. And if I'm wrong about the participants, sorry, but last time I checked, it was Mr. Anderson and Bully Ray. But again, if I'm wrong, please let me know. But they're just taking that kind of a match and turning it into a TNA match. So, if you're psyched about seeing Jeff Hardy return, but not as himself, as his Omega character, Willow the Wisp, let me know. Let me know how excited you are. Anyways, I am James Balash. Good night, everyone, and have a great night. thank you for listening, and I'll do more of these videos in the future. Thank you for listening, and good night.